So, in previous episodes of this podcast, we've touched on the importance of advocating for accommodations. And today I'd like to delve a little deeper into specifics on this topic. So, first, I'd like to make a distinction between accommodations and modifications. Would one of you be able to clarify the difference between the two?
I would say accommodations have to do with services or adjustments, if you will, that are entitlements under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So when someone is employed and has a disability, they would be entitled to accommodations under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And in my experience with employers, these are adjustments that aren't like moving mountains. So for instance, you can't have everybody's schedule change just for one person, but accommodations might be wearing a hat in the office if the fluorescent lights are too much, or maybe having your directions be given to you in writing, or have physically speaking, like a wheelchair ramp or something. Things of that nature are accommodations. Modifications are ways that, like I mentioned, with instructions being given in writing versus orally, or tweaking how information is already given in order to, I hate to use the other term, but to accommodate a person with a disability. So that's a little bit of a difference between accommodations and modifications.
Is it also true that modifications might entail that you are changing the expectation of the end product of whatever the assignment is, whether it's school or at work?
It can be,
Okay.
given we want the lesson or the moral of the story, if you will, to be the same or relatively similar, regardless of how the person learns it. And there are lots of learning styles out there. There's visual, there's auditory, kinesthetic. And the idea is that all learners get the same lesson and have the same outcome, or at least learn the same material, regardless of their learning style.
Mm-hmm. And David, could you elaborate on why it's important to advocate for accommodations?
Yes, certainly. So, in order for me to have the accommodations that I wanted during my college career, I had to take a very, very long, brutal examination where one of my psychologists would clarify my strengths and weaknesses and the kinds of needs that I would want. So when I went to my undergraduate career at Pace University, I was accommodated with double time for examinations. I was not permitted to use lecture notes during the exam unless if my instructor allowed it. And for all of my classes, I was given a note taker, which kind of means there would be someone in the class taking notes for me, and then they would be put on a website where I can look back at them again. And some of the things that I really struggled with a lot was during most of my class lectures, I missed very, very critical notes that I didn't realize. And then when I had to look back at the note taker's notes again online, I caught them and I needed them when I wanted to prepare for an exam or even when writing my paper to make sure that I am covering all the material that is expected from my instructors. And even if I do have these accommodations, I still have to adhere to the academic integrity code. I have to be able to adjust to the teaching styles of my instructors, and I also have to be willing to communicate with them a lot more than just being able to hand in an accommodation document that they have to sign, and then that I would have to return to the disabilities office of my school. And in order for me to get extended time for exams, I had to fill out TARF sheets and send them in at least a week in advance. Mainly for midterms or final exams, they had to be sent in a week or two earlier. And if I didn't send them in time, then I would very likely not have gotten the extended time that I wanted. And thankfully, with spending countless hours with the study abroad office, I advocated for my accommodations to be fulfilled when I wanted to travel abroad for a semester in Barcelona and other short-term travel abroad experiences that I had during my sophomore and senior year. So that was a very, very valuable thing. And regardless of that, I had to adapt to the education systems of the country I was traveling to. And I also needed more clarity about the teaching methods that are usually done over there. So with that, I had a tutor who was not only connected with my instructors, but is experienced in that particular education system and really, really knows what it's like and how assignments are usually expected to be done within that setting. And moving further with that, I did have an academic coach during my college career where I received comprehensive support to make sure that I was getting my assignments done and that I was satisfied with the results that were coming, because I had very specific goals that I wanted to go beyond the expectations of my support program, which was averaging a cumulative GPA that would tell me I am graduating with honors. So that is a brilliant example to that.
Mm-hmm. So, as far as accommodations for schools, does it depend on what the school is capable to offer? Or are you kind of guaranteed to have your accommodations met because you have a disability?
You're never guaranteed to have your accommodations met if you have a disability if you do not disclose. Because by the time you're in college, you have to be at the age or the point where you can't get mom and dad to come fight your battles for you. You have to be able to have like an IEP, a 504 plan, or something in writing that shows you have a documented disability. These are areas where you struggle. These are accommodations or ideas that could improve your college experience. Because if you don't step forward, if you don't say something, you're not going to get the help. I actually know a woman in my hometown here who has autism, but she's afraid to talk to men. And she did not approach this disabilities office, and as a result, failed her first semester. So
Wow.
it's up to the person with autism or other disability to work with their allies, come up with something in writing together, and have the person go to the office and make the request. Because if you do not ask for something, how are you going to expect to get it? And if you know that you struggle with like racing against the clock in a test, you could request double time, as I did. If you can't stand like people clearing their noses or throats during tests, as I did, I request my own room in the disabilities office, or a note taker. All these accommodations that we don't really think about, but are necessary for the best college experience. So it's up to us, the individual, to make the ask. Yes, it's stressful. Yes, it's anxiety provoking, but that is the hurdle you must overcome if you are to have the best experience in college and beyond. Because when I went to take the CPA exam, I knew that vocabulary is not my strongest suit, and I let the California Board of Accountancy know I struggle with vocabulary, and they said, you know what, we're not here to test your ability to know vocabulary, we're testing your ability to apply the principles of accounting. So we are going to send you a Franklin electronic dictionary to use during the CPA exam. And I was taken aback. I never thought to request that kind of accommodation. And I'm like, if only I had that so many years in school growing up, something where I could look up a word that I didn't know the meaning of during a test. And I think that could help a lot of people with autism, having a way to look up words they don't know and without disturbing the peace, and it be a legit accommodation. Sometimes you got to make that ask. You got to make the ask.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to further emphasize on that Thomas is absolutely right about this. You are not guaranteed the accommodations that you have, or even that your psychologist is saying. It is your responsibility to advocate for it and to make sure that these accommodations are suitable for where you are choosing to go or pursue your education. And to be honest about it, if the schools that I wanted to travel abroad with, if they told me that they are unable to accommodate my needs, then very likely I would have not traveled to those countries or pursued credits within their school environments. And that's a very, very serious thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And moving further with getting extended time on exams, when I got the double time that I wanted, I felt less pressured. So if I ever got stuck on a question, I could just skip it and then go back to it after taking care of the easy questions. Another thing that the Disabilities Office is fully aware of is that if there is a student who has a question that they are struggling with or doesn't understand, or if they think that there is a mistake on it, we can always go to our proctors and they can always contact our instructors. Our professors are required to put their contact information on the sheets that we fill out and turn in a week before our exams. So if we want to contact our professors that we think there's a mistake or if there's something we're stuck on, then there is consideration in both sides about it. And regardless of that, I had to adjust to the teaching styles of my instructors. And I had to, ask countless questions, on how to, communicate with them and how to connect with them. And they understand that. And they even understand that there will be confusion when they have students with special needs. But it's up to those students. If you approach them respectfully and ask legitimate questions, they will always be more than happy to help you. It's just entirely up to you to step forward with that.
Right.
Moving further into another thing that was also a part of me preparing for exams is that I was being very blunt and asking questions about what am I responsible for? What do I need to study? And there were times I needed some more clarification on that.
You've been watching Autism Knows No Borders. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know what you think in the comments section. Click here to watch this interview in its entirety. You can also find us on your favorite podcast app. Tune in each week for engaging conversations of how people across the globe are inspiring change and building community. Thanks for watching. Take care.